What is up, guys? Fato82 coming at you with some truly epic raid camp footage today. This is the longest raid that I've ever filmed, so buckle up.
About to get slimy up in here.
And you'll notice, guys, that the raiders are staging for the raid here. They're building some structures, and the purpose for doing this is to have a place to respawn at, a place to leave some supplies behind, and a place to fall back to. Anytime you're raiding a high-value target, you want to stage for it, and when you're raiding a base as complex as the one that they're going after, you really need to prepare for it by building a staging area. The base they're going to be raiding is the base of Dirt McGirt and his crew. You guys might have remembered from the Battle of Rustopia that Dirt McGirt and his guys tried to raid Tobias and the YPB crew. It's actually the other way around now. Tobias, YPB, and at least two other clans are forming together to raid Dirt's compound. Dirt has built on top of the globe or the Death Star, and he has a pretty gnarly base design, so it's going to be pretty interesting to see what they can do to that particular fortification. So we're in for quite a ride, guys. We're going to speed it up a little bit here while the raiders get to their destination. The number of people here in terms of the raid team is estimated to be in the range of 30 to 40 people. I sort of lost count, but I heard the number 40, and that seems about consistent. They are breaking up into smaller raid teams, and they're fanning out into the compound. The main team is currently staging here by this rock. And you'll notice, guys, that the first shot has been fired. I'm not sure if that came from Dirt's compound or if one of their own guys hit that particular individual, but that person went down. We can see the trails from a rocket that's being fired towards Dirt's main base, which is on top of that globe, on top of that Death Star. And because this raid is so complex and so involved, we're going to have to really take a bird's eye view for most of it. So we're going to be the eye in the sky for a lot of this. You'll see that Dirt's up here. He's aware something's going on, so it's definitely going to be an active raid. Dirt and Nine Cats are up here in the main base, and they have about 8 to 11 other members who are in auxiliary bases that are around this particular globe base. So Dirt has a team of about 8 to 11 people. Not quite an even matchup for 30 to 40 raiders, but defenders oftentimes do have the home field advantage because they've constructed this area. They know exactly what angles to cover, and they have probably a lot of supplies, I would assume. And notice, guys, there's some gunfire going down here on the ground. Looks like we have the Ewok crew here. And this is truly some epic stuff, guys. You can just see the rocket trails going in different directions. That big group of about 30 to 40 has broken into smaller raid teams, and they're hitting targets differently. So they're not all focusing on the main target. This is a great strategy, guys, when you're raiding a base and you have a group this big. You don't want to focus just on one particular target and then have your group in one location. So what's happening here is the raiders are hitting the main base, but they're also hitting the bases around it so that they can knock down some of those fortifications. Dirt has guys in those bases who are shooting at the raiders, but then the raiders are also shooting at the main base. This causes the defenders to be very unsure of what's going on. It's very chaotic, it's very hectic, and I want to kind of try to keep the commentary a little bit light in this point because I want you guys to hear the effects of all of this chaos that's going off. I've never seen so many rockets in a raid on a vanilla server in Rust before. They're using rockets with wild abandon now. They're firing them off. They're hitting targets left and right. I've lost count of the rockets, guys. It's pretty stunning stuff. This reminds me of some type of a military maneuver or some type of a precise military movement. I mean, it's really stunning to see all those trails from the rockets. You can see the smoke trails, and it reminds me of really some type of scene out of like World War II with people storming the beaches of Normandy or something to that effect. Quite epic, and I'm glad that we're able to capture this. So you'll notice that the rockets are being fired towards these bases that are on the rocks, that are secondary bases, and gunfire is coming from those bases as well. So they're shooting back at the raiders, trying to keep the raiders at bay. But there's so many raiders, guys, it's hard for Dirt and his crew to really know what to focus on. Now, when a raid like this is going down, the raiders are rolling deep. They have C4, they have rockets, they have lots of rounds of ammunition. They have stuff back in the staging area, no doubt, but obviously they're rolling with a lot of rockets. So when a player goes down, guys, when one of those raiders goes down in the middle of that open field, there could be a lot of loot on their body. So it's a high-stress situation, not only for the base defenders, but for the raiders as well. And looking at sort of the aerial view here, guys, we can see that base that Dirt built on top of the globe. We've looked at it before in a previous video. In a previous iteration of the Rustopia server before the last wipe, he built a similar base. And you can see here that it's really being put to the test. We wondered how it could be raided, if it could be raided, and just how successful that could be. And we're going to find out tonight. You'll notice, guys, that some rockets are hitting the globe instead of the base. And I think that's one of the advantages to building on top of the globe. It's so high up that it's really hard to sometimes aim those rockets precisely. Now, they're doing a fine job aiming the rockets, don't get me wrong. They just blew a hole right in the side of Dirt's base. Dirt and 9cats are patching up that base, and they're doing a heck of a job to try to plug those holes. And back on the ground, you'll see that they're targeting some of those secondary bases, the one off in the distance as well as the one in the forefront. Lots of rockets were brought to this fight, guys. Haven't heard any C4 go off yet, but the rockets are absolutely stunning. I'm hoping we get to see some smoke rockets, but I'm not sure. And I'm not really sure if some of these are high velocity versus normal rockets. And again, guys, you'll notice how devastating the rockets are. We didn't think when they were first put in the game that they would be used necessarily for raiding purposes, but I'm seeing them in just about every raid at this point, and they are very effective at opening up pathways through bases and seeing exactly where things are, and it really keeps the defenders on edge. The rockets certainly were a game changer. We're seeing that here. Look at this base here, guys. This one was turned to Swiss cheese. We can see into the base. We see there's a couple dead defenders in there. And down on the ground, we got some small arms fire going off. They're exchanging fire back with the defenders in the tower. Up here are some of Dirt's guys who are trying to hold steady in these secondary bases, are giving it right back to the raiders. And looking at it, guys, from this bird's eye perspective, you can really see what Dirt and his crew put together this particular go-around on the Rustopia server. So they did the Death Star base, they built on it, they did it a little bit different this time. They have a few rock bases around it, and it's really hard to get to that main Death Star base without taking out these bases first. And that's why, guys, the Raiders are not worrying about that main base right yet. They know they need to knock down these defenses, otherwise they're going to get picked off when they try going for that main base. So this, guys, is actually a really complicated raid. Even though there's a large raiding party here, there's a large presence of raiders, it's still very surgical in the way that they need to approach it. And say what you will about Riot and Tobias, they're very skilled raiders and they know what they're doing. They take it very seriously, and I have no doubt that they've scouted out this location before and they know what targets to hit. And more rockets, guys, are going off. The bases are just falling apart at this point. Dirt and his crew are doing exactly what they should. They're holding steady. They're not losing their cool. They're not taking the fight to the ground yet because they know that would be a fruitless effort. And they're just doing their best to try to wait the raiders out. I've said it before, guys, and I'll say it again. Raiding is a battle of attrition. It's all about who has the most fight and who has the most resources. So I've seen a lot of raids, guys, and when you think the Raiders are going to get it, sometimes it doesn't go that way, and we'll see how it goes tonight. So back on the ground level, guys, we can see that a few of the YPB members were taken out. The YPB guys are traditionally in the red and the yellow colors. We can notice that rocket fire is actually coming down from Dirt's globe base, so Dirt's sending rockets back their way. Good stuff, giving the Raiders a run for their money, a taste of their own medicine. Rockets are coming down, and you'll notice, guys, that rockets don't have a lot of collateral damage. They don't have a lot of a radius effect. So the area of effect on rockets is not that great. You kind of have to hit a player dead on to get them. They did get a couple there, but I'm hoping that in the future the rockets have more of a blast radius. So we get another rocket going up and hitting the side of the Death Star, hitting the side of the globe. I think that's, again, one of the biggest advantages to building on top of that bad boy is it's higher than any rock in the game, guys. It's going to give you a great vantage point if you build up there, and it's hard to get rockets up there and hard to aim them perfectly. That particular rocket did hit it spot on the side of it. You can see that about 3 or 4 rockets were fired at it in rapid succession. So Dirt and his crew are trying to do their best up there, and they are doing a fine job, don't get me wrong, but that's a hard battle to fight up there, patching up the holes in the base when you have that many rockets coming your way. And keep in mind, guys, this is the end of a wipe cycle on Rustopia, so these players have grinded away for the better part of a week to acquire these resources. They've raided to get some of it. You know, these players take it seriously, so there's a lot. They're not holding back any punches because it's use it or lose it at this point. So we're really seeing quite a spectacular show. We get some more small arms fire on the ground here going off. Looks like some of the raiders are getting engaged on the ground level by Dirt and his crew. In a situation like this, guys, when you have this many people raiding, it's hard to really control everyone to keep them organized. It looks like they're color coordinated, so the different clans that came together are wearing their colors, which is a good thing. It can get a bit messy, though. I'm hoping they're all on separate TeamSpeak channels or something to that effect. They do seem to be doing a really phenomenal job of working on different targets, and their teamwork seems to be really good. Another rocket, we'll notice, just hit that globe and didn't quite reach it to the base. And we get another rocket coming back down from Dirt's globe, and it's hitting an area where some of the raiders were. So Dirt's definitely fighting back, definitely giving them a taste of their own medicine again, shooting some rockets back their way. I hope you save some of those rockets, though, just in case they do get up to that particular Death Star, because he's going to need them. And guys, I got to admit, you know, the Battle for Rustopia was the favorite Rust raid that I've ever recorded, and it probably still will be, but this one's shaping up to be its own brand of genius, and this seems to me to be more of an all-out assault, more of a straight-up war than a battle. I would call the other one a battle, but this is really a war, guys. This is something else. I haven't seen anything like this on a vanilla Rust server. Okay, and you'll notice, guys, what they're hitting here is one of the main bases at the base of Dirt's globe base, and it's the one that actually houses the staircase to get up to that Death Star. So they need to breach this area to be able to get up to that base on top of the globe. And the rockets are making short work of that. The rockets that they have seem to be endless, but I'm sure there's, of course, an end at some point, but at this point they don't seem to be holding back with the rockets. I haven't heard any C4 yet, although there may have been C4 used, and it just was hard to hear over the sound of the rockets. And more gunfire, guys. Just constant exchange of gunfire between the defenders and the raiders, as it should be in a raid. Both parties seem to be very well armed, very focused on the task at hand. The defenders are not losing their cool. The raiders have a laser focus, and you know, it's really hard to say who's winning or losing at this point. You guys might notice on Dirt's base, you might be seeing that there's some colors on the side of that stairwell over there, and you might be wondering what those are. Those are actually signs that were put down on the stairwell to the Death Star that actually makes it easier for Dirt and his crew to get in and out of that base quicker. Those stairs are hard to jump on, guys. They're hard to navigate. So those particular signs that are color coordinated allow them to jump up there quicker. And you'll notice that Riot and the raiding crew has breached that area. They're on the stairwell. They just took a rocket, and it looks like it took out at least one of the raid party members. So this is another benefit to this Death Star base design, guys. There's only one way up, and it's a bit of a choke point. It's a major choke point, in fact. Dirt and his guys, this is where they're going to win or lose this battle, is on this particular part of the Death Star. So they have this stairwell that winds up around the base. They're raining holy hell back down onto those raiders. They've already taken out a few of them. Another rocket came down. Looks like it took out some more of them. And the raiders are returning that rocket fire right back up to the base. This is some truly epic shit, guys. Good stuff. Another rocket just took out what looks like one raider and destroyed the body of another one. When that body got destroyed, you'll notice all of the items broke down into their individual pieces. So you'll notice all those bags on the stairs. Now, on the Death Star base design, guys, it's very easy for stuff to roll off the side of it, including bodies and loot. So if somebody got hit who had maybe the majority of C4, the lion's share of C4 on them, or a lot of rockets, that could very easily roll off into some crevice somewhere that, you know, you're not going to be able to get it back, especially in a hectic situation like this. So that's another element to the Death Star that makes it a little bit unique, is that it's very hard to navigate and it's very easy to fall off of it. So there's some gunfire going back off at the base of that area. It looks like what's happening is that there are some of Dirt's men who are coming out, and there's so much chaos on the ground, they're actually mixing in with the raid party, and they can't differentiate who's who. So there's some confusion among the raid party members. They're still doing a phenomenal job, but when some new person runs in, there's a bit of a delay in terms of if they should shoot them or not. You'll notice that Dirt and another member here have taken up a position on the side of that stairwell, and they are using that to their advantage. Again, it's a critical choke point. They're taking out the raiders who are trying to get up that stairwell, and it's very hard to get up there because the pathways in the game, the pathfinding is difficult on those particular structures. So they have to jump instead of just walking or running up it. Now, one of Dirt's members, I can't see the name, but jumped down from the top. Looks like he's going to bring the fight to the raiders down at the bottom. Looks as though he's armed with an AK. He's lighting shit up as he goes down. And he's going into the fray. He is giving them a run for their money. In a situation like this, guys, in Rust, you know, there's always the benefit of running into a group like that because they're going to shoot each other with their crossfire too. There's no friendly fire in Rust that can be, you know, put on, you know, or turned off rather. So the friendly fire is an element that can actually be used against the raiders. When you run into a group of them and they're all shooting wildly, they're probably going to take out one another. You'll notice again we're here at the choke point. This is the new critical part of this raid, and it's going to be, the question is whether or not Dirt and his men can get past this point. This is going to make or break this particular raid. They certainly seem to have enough rockets. They're shooting them back up there. But whether or not they can get up that stairwell remains to be determined. So we get some more fire lighting up the gunfire lighting up the night sky here. Looks like Dirt and his men did take out the defenders at that point, and they are inching their way back up. And they're now at the top of the base of that Death Star base. So they can't jump onto it, guys, because of the way that the railings are. They're going to have to get through that airlock that is on the end of the stairwell there. They're going to have to breach that with either rockets or C4. And looks like that rocket, guys, is going to the moon. That's going straight up into the night sky. That one's not hitting the base. Very hard on the Death Star to aim things properly. That raider was just taken out with a rocket. Good stuff. And you'll notice again how his body just fell to the ground. Another part of the Death Star base, like I said, that's really an advantage to having a base up there. It's also a disadvantage too if you're the homeowner and you fall off or lose your stuff. So guys, night has ended, and Dirt and his men up there are still holding strong. Dirt, 9 Cats, and at least one other member are up in the main base, and there's about 6 other members who are in the auxiliary bases around the compound. We see small arms fire going off on the ground here. It's lighting up the dawn, and it's hard to tell exactly who's who, but we know that it's the defenders versus the raiders. So probably in an effort to distract the raid party from that main base, some of Dirt's members are taking the fight to the ground down there. We'll notice there's some gunfire being exchanged up here on the stairwell. And the raid member is hopping his way up there. He's working his way up. But again, they still have yet to really make it as a team past that choke point. They did breach that airlock up there, but this is still the critical part here. If they can't get the rest of their men or the rest of their supplies up here, then that's going to be a problem. So at this point, guys, Riot and his crew are at the top. They've breached the airlock. They are at sort of Dirt's front door, if you will. So it looks like they're probably going to get into the base. Tobias was just taken down, but he was revived by one of his members. And we'll see a body of one of the defenders who was just shot off of his base, and that body just fell. There's another one. This is some good stuff to see, guys. Makes it all the more epic.
Back up.
All right, so we get some C4 on the door. It is going to take a few charges to take out that armored door. What looks like Tobias and his men are going to get into the core of this particular base. Whether or not they get up to the top floor or up to a loot room remains to be seen, but they're definitely surrounding the base at this point. There are what looks like at least 8 raid party members who are up here on the base, and there's still a substantial amount down on the ground. And they probably have a heck of a lot of resources back at that staging area. I'm not sure if they still have enough C4 with them. Looks like they're slowing down at that front door. I'm not sure what's going on there.
C4 the stairs. C4 the stairs.
C4 what? Am I C4 in this? Yes or no?
It looks like here, guys, you can hear a little bit of dialogue. I'm not sure if you guys can hear it, but there's a person on the inside trying to mess with the raiders, telling them to use their C4 in a different manner. But they caught on to that game, and they actually breached the front door. They're making their way in.
One more, dude. One more. Do it. Yes, back up. One more, dude. One more. Do it.
Looks like another rocket, guys, just came down and took out at least one of the raid party members. Another raider was taken out with gunfire. So Dirt and his guys are still doing a good job at trying to control that choke point, but the raiders are inching past the point of no return, so to speak. So Dirt and his men are now going to have to worry about the inside of their base rather than the outside of their base. And again, guys, look at the effects of everything, bodies, items, rolling off the side of that base. Awesome physics in the game, and it's something that is really kind of unique to this cylindrical base design. Again, it's as much of a disadvantage sometimes to the base defenders too. If they're trying to hand something to a friend and drop it, it's as good as gone. But the raiders are having a tough time recouping their supplies when one of their members dies up here because it's all rolling off that base. And 9 Cats and Dirt are inside the base. They're gearing back up in their loot room, taking inventory of what they have. They know that the fight now is at a critical point because the inside of their base, the core of their base, has been breached. So the raid team is now inside the main base. This also means, guys, that Dirt's men who are on the ground and who are in those auxiliary bases can't really help Dirt and 9 Cats up in this base, because that choke point that was a disadvantage for the raiders is also going to be a disadvantage for the defenders. They can't get reinforcements back up there too quickly unless they have sleeping bags assigned up into this base for those members. And Riot, Tobias, and the other clans who are raiding this base are making short work of getting through the core of this base. They definitely have C4 with them, and they are ripping through it. And another wall was just taken down, guys. Looks like they're going to try to take out the core of the base, the foundations, and hope that it all crumbles. And we got the Ewok clan and Riot and Tobias's clan, YPB. There, looks like they're using some hand tools. Maybe they ran out of C4, but they were able to successfully knock down a wall inside that inner part. Some more gunfire going off. So Dirt and his men are up top trying to rain some fire back down on the Raiders. Nine Cats is up inside. He's getting himself ready by the fire. Looks like the YPB crew is pulling rockets back out, and they're shooting rockets back up into the center of Dirt's base. This does not look good for Dirt and his men, guys. Rockets are going straight up through the core of their base, and in all likelihood is probably going to hit a loot room, probably take out some of their supplies so they won't be able to re-gear. The fight isn't over yet, but it's not looking too good.
Buzzkill, watch out.
And in an epic move, one of Dirt's men just jumped down there. He's trying to get as many kills as he can. Again, some of the crossfire probably helped him. And Nine Cats is following his buddy down there with a rocket launcher. He's trying to get the Raiders, trying to hold them down to that ground level. We can hear some friendly dialogue between the Raiders and the base defenders. Rockets are going back up into the inside of the base, shredding that core of the base. And on the outside of the base, looks like rockets are hitting that as well. So this base, guys, is becoming Swiss cheese. It is becoming full of holes, and it's going to be a tremendous stressor for Dirt and his men who he has up there to be able to keep up with it. They are doing a fine job, though, guys. The fact that this raid has gone on this long is a testament to everybody's skill here. In terms of the Raiders and the defenders, very few people would be able to hold off a raid party of 30 to 40 members with that number of rockets and C4. It's a combination of good base design, good tactics, and keeping your cool. And you'll see that they're trying to repair the base here, so they're patching it up as best they can. Remember this, guys, when you're getting raided, even when it seems like all is lost, if you can keep patching up your base and doing your best, chances are you might survive, because at some point, someone's going to run out of resources, and it could be the Raiders. But as much as they're patching up the base, more rockets are being fired up to the center of that base, ripping it apart. The base is just crumbling from the inside out. Probably those rockets are taking out sleeping bags. They're doing a heck of a job to the inside of the base. I think this is not a mission for loot as much as it is for destruction and for bragging rights.
Foundation over there goes down. Everything's falling.
And we can see all the bodies on the inside of the base here. These are bodies of the defenders and also bodies of Raiders. You'll notice the Raiders are coming back less well geared than they were before, so chances are they're running low on supplies at this point. They're moving back to using hand tools to try to take out the walls here. And just make note, guys, as we look at the landscape here, the carnage that has taken place here. There are bodies all over. They're lining that stairwell. They're at the bottom of the base here. And as we move out into the landscape, we'll see that it's littered by bodies of Raiders primarily, probably some defenders mixed in as well. I haven't seen this many corpses in Rust in one particular session, guys, so this again is something that is a first for me in terms of seeing a body count that high. And probably some bodies have despawned, so if they were all there, it would probably be twice that of what we saw. You'll notice some more gunfire going off in here. Very chaotic situation, but they are doing short work of that base. They're making short work of it, and they're shredding through it. Back to using hand tools, though, so they're probably running low on the C4 and rockets at this point. On the ground level, guys, we have some defenders taking the fight to the Raiders. Again, it's hard to tell who's who because the base defenders can always put on the same colors as one of the Raiders, and they can also just loot one of the corpses and dress like the Raiders to kind of mix in and blend in with them. So one of Dirt's men, he's jumping back down here. He was taken out, but he's making one last stand, one last effort to try to get down there and push those Raiders back. Guys, you'll notice night has fallen, so it's another night into this raid. This raid has been about 4 in-game days so far. The longest raid that I've ever covered, and one of the most intense, if not the most intense. So the YPB crew is still holding strong. They're trying to recover by the fire, and they are going to still be taking the fight back up to Dirt's main base. Gunfire is lighting up the night sky, guys. We have small arms fire going off left and right down here. It's a chaotic situation. It's a war zone down here. It's hard to tell who's who, so I can't call out names as I usually would. This is one of the most chaotic situations that I've seen in Rust. But Dirt and his men are back on that stairwell, back at that choke point, and they're trying to keep the Raiders at bay. You'll notice that Dirt and his men have taken the advantage of night and taken the supplies that they had left that weren't blown apart by those rockets, and they're repairing their base, guys. This might be a game changer. So Dirt and 9 Cats have successfully healed up the base, and this guy's has shifted the tide of this raid. So the base was healed up. The Raiders have used the lion's share of their supplies at this point. The raid is winding down. Both sides fought very hard. It's hard to say, you know, who's a winner, who's a loser. I think everybody brought their A game to it at this point. I think it speaks volumes of both teams here. But at the end of the day, Dirt did keep his base. That globe base was a heck of a base to raid, guys. We saw it in a previous video when I talked about building on monuments. We all wondered how well it could be raided, how efficient it was for a base design. And, you know, there's definitely pros and cons to it, but I think we can see that it was one heck of a base to raid. Fado82, peace.